Welcome everyone. Today we are going to talk about something that almost every person wants but very few people know how to build: real, lasting confidence. Not the kind of confidence that disappears when something goes wrong. Not the kind that depends on other people telling you that you are good. We are talking about unbreakable confidence. The kind that stays with you even on hard days. And the good news is this: confidence is not something you are born with or without. It is something you build. With specific skills. Skills that anyone can learn. Imagine yourself waking up one morning and feeling completely sure of who you are. You walk into a room and you are not worried about what others think. You face a difficult situation and instead of feeling fear, you feel ready. That is what we are building today. Let me tell you about a man named Daniel. Daniel was 28 years old and he had a problem that millions of people share. On the outside, his life looked fine. He had a job. He had friends. But on the inside, he felt like he was always one step behind everyone else. At work, he had good ideas, but he never spoke up in meetings. He was afraid that people would think his ideas were stupid. So he stayed quiet. And then, every time, he watched someone else say almost the same idea and receive praise for it. In his personal life, he avoided new situations. He turned down invitations to events where he did not know people. He stopped trying new hobbies because he was afraid of being bad at them in front of others. He was living a smaller life than he wanted to live. Daniel did not think of himself as unconfident. He just thought he was careful. Realistic. But one evening, sitting alone after another quiet weekend, he had an honest thought that changed everything. He thought, "I am not being careful. I am hiding." That moment of honesty was painful. But it was also the beginning of something new. Daniel started reading about confidence. He watched videos. He talked to people he admired. And slowly, he began to understand something important. Confidence is not a feeling that arrives before you act. Confidence is a feeling that arrives because you act. He had been waiting to feel confident before he tried things. But that is not how confidence works. Confidence comes after the action, not before it. So Daniel decided to try something different. He decided to build confidence like a skill. Deliberately. Slowly. One small action at a time. The first skill Daniel worked on was self-awareness. Self-awareness means knowing yourself honestly. Not just your strengths, but also your fears and your patterns. Daniel started keeping a small notebook. Every evening, he wrote down one moment from his day when he felt afraid or unsure. Then he asked himself, what exactly was I afraid of? What story was I telling myself? This was uncomfortable at first. He discovered that most of his fears were connected to one thing: the fear of judgment. He was afraid that people would see him make a mistake and think less of him. But here is what he also discovered. When he wrote these fears down and looked at them clearly, they became smaller. A fear that lives only in your mind feels enormous. A fear that you write down and examine becomes something you can work with. Self-awareness was the foundation. But it was not enough on its own. The second skill Daniel developed was what we can call competence building. This means getting genuinely good at something through practice. Daniel chose public speaking. It was the thing he feared most at work. He joined a local speaking group that met every 2 weeks. The first time he stood up to speak, his hands were shaking. His voice was unsteady. He spoke for 2 minutes and sat down feeling embarrassed. But he went back. And again. And again. After 3 months, something had shifted. Not because he had become a perfect speaker, but because he had evidence. Real evidence, from his own experience, that he could do something he once believed he could not do. This is the secret that most people miss about confidence. Confidence is not built by thinking positive thoughts. It is built by collecting evidence. Every time you do the thing you were afraid to do, you add one small piece of evidence to a growing collection that says, I am capable. Daniel's collection was growing. The third skill was learning to manage discomfort. This is perhaps the most important skill of all. Confident people are not people who never feel uncomfortable. They are people who have learned that discomfort is not dangerous. They feel the nervousness, the uncertainty, the awkward feeling, and they continue anyway. Daniel practiced this deliberately. He called it his discomfort practice. Each week, he chose one small thing that made him uncomfortable and he did it on purpose. He introduced himself to a stranger at a coffee shop. He asked a question in a large group. He tried a cooking class even though he was terrible at cooking. None of these things were dramatic. But each one taught him the same lesson: discomfort passes. The awkward moment ends. And you are still standing. Over time, his tolerance for discomfort grew. Things that once felt impossible started to feel merely difficult. And difficult things felt manageable. But here is what almost no one talks about when it comes to building confidence. The fourth skill is the one that most advice ignores completely. It is the skill of self-compassion. Daniel discovered this skill by accident. About 4 months into his confidence journey, he had a bad week. He gave a presentation at work and it did not go well. He froze in the middle, lost his place, and had to stop and start again. Afterward, he felt terrible. His old pattern would have been to spend days replaying the moment, criticizing himself, using it as proof that he was not good enough. But this time, he tried something different. He asked himself, if my best friend had this experience, what would I say to him? The answer came easily. He would say, that was hard, but it happens to everyone. You were brave to try. What can you learn from it? Now move forward. So he said those words to himself instead. This sounds simple. But it is genuinely difficult. Most of us are much kinder to other people than we are to ourselves. We forgive others easily but judge ourselves harshly. Self-compassion does not mean making excuses for yourself. It means treating yourself with the same basic kindness you would give to someone you care about. And when you do this, something remarkable happens. You become less afraid of failure. Because failure stops being a verdict on your worth and becomes simply information. With less fear of failure, you try more things. When you try more things, you build more competence. When you build more competence, your confidence grows. Self-compassion is not weakness. It is the engine that keeps the whole system running. The fifth and final skill Daniel built was the skill of contribution. This one surprised him most. About 6 months into his journey, Daniel noticed something. On the days when he focused entirely on himself, on how he was performing, on what others thought of him, on whether he was doing well enough, those were the hardest days. The self-consciousness was exhausting. But on the days when he focused on being useful to others, helping a colleague with a problem, listening carefully to a friend, contributing an idea in a meeting not to impress anyone but because he genuinely thought it might help, those days felt different. Lighter. More natural. He realized that excessive self-focus is actually one of the main causes of low confidence. When you are always watching yourself, judging yourself, worrying about how you appear, you become trapped inside your own head. Contribution breaks that trap. When your attention moves from yourself to the person in front of you, from how you are performing to what you can offer, confidence follows naturally. This is why genuinely confident people are often described as warm and generous. Their confidence is not about them. It is expressed through their attention to others. Daniel practiced this by asking one simple question before any social or professional situation: what can I contribute here? Not what can I get? Not how will I look? Simply, what can I give? This small shift in focus changed the quality of his interactions completely. Now, let us return to Daniel 1 year after that quiet evening when he had his honest thought. He is still not perfect. He still has days of doubt. He still sometimes feels nervous before difficult conversations. Confidence did not make him a different person. It made him a more complete version of himself. But the changes were real and visible. He now speaks regularly in meetings. He has made new friendships through activities he once would have avoided. He took on a project at work that stretched his abilities and he completed it successfully. More importantly, he carries himself differently. Not with arrogance. With steadiness. With the quiet certainty of someone who knows that whatever comes, he has the ability to respond. His colleagues noticed. His friends noticed. But most importantly, Daniel noticed. He had become someone he recognized. Someone he respected. So let us bring this back to you. You may not be in exactly Daniel's situation. But if you are watching this video, there is probably a part of you that wants more of what he found. More certainty. More courage. More of that quiet, steady feeling that you can handle what life brings. Remember the 5 skills. Self-awareness: know your patterns and your fears honestly. Competence building: get genuinely good at something through repeated action. Discomfort tolerance: practice doing the uncomfortable thing until discomfort loses its power. Self-compassion: treat yourself with the same kindness you would give a good friend. And contribution: shift your focus from yourself to what you can offer others. These are not quick fixes. They are real skills. They take time. But every skill you have ever developed took time, and you developed them anyway. Confidence is the same. It is built in small moments, repeated over time, until one day you look back and realize that you have become someone who no longer needs to wait to feel ready. You simply begin. Here is your one small action for right now, today. Take out a piece of paper or open a notes app on your phone. Write down one situation in your life where you have been waiting to feel confident before you act. Just one. Then write down the smallest possible version of that action, the tiniest first step you could take this week. Not the whole journey. Just the first step. That first step is where your confidence begins. Not in a feeling. In a choice. The choice to begin before you are ready, and to trust that the confidence will come as you go. Because it will. It always does.